The sun had not fully risen yet, but the streets were already awake. Buses groaned as they stopped and started. Shop shutters rattled open one by one. The smell of dust, mixed with tea and fried snacks, filled the air. In the middle of all this noise and movement, a poor street vendor pushed her small wooden cart to the corner she had used for years. The cart was old, its paint chipped and faded. But it was her only source of income. She lived in a tiny rented room at the edge of the city. The room had cracked walls, a leaking tap, and one small window that barely let sunlight in. Still, it was home. Every morning she woke before dawn, washed her face with cold water, and whispered a short prayer for strength. Life had never been easy for her, but she had learned to keep moving forward without complaint. She had lost her parents at a young age and had no siblings to rely on. There was no one waiting for her at home, no safety net to fall back on. Whatever she earned during the day decided whether she ate well or went to sleep hungry. Some days were better than others. Some days she sold almost everything. Other days people walked past her as if she did not exist. She sold simple food that working people could afford. Office helpers, rickshaw drivers, and construction workers were her regular customers. They trusted her because she was clean, fair, and never cheated anyone. If someone was short of money, she often gave them food anyway, telling them to pay later. Most of them did. Some never came back. She never chased them. She believed that what she gave with a clean heart would return to her in some form. That morning felt no different from any other. She arranged her items carefully, wiping the cart with a cloth she carried everywhere. As she worked, she watched the city slowly come alive. Children in worn uniforms rushed past, laughing and arguing. Office workers walked with tired faces, already stressed before the day had even begun. Street dogs slept near closed shops, unaware of the rush around them. She often wondered how life could be so different for people living on the same street. Some entered expensive cars, others searched the ground for coins. She did not feel jealous, just curious. In her heart, she believed that everyone was fighting a battle others could not see. By mid-morning, she had sold a few portions. It was not much, but it was a start. She counted her money quietly, making sure it was enough to buy vegetables for dinner. As she served customers, she listened more than she spoke. People shared their worries freely with her. Maybe it was because she never judged. Maybe it was because she understood pain without needing words. Around noon, the heat became heavy. The sun burned the road and sweat ran down her back. She took small sips of water, careful not to finish it too quickly. Buying extra water was an expense she tried to avoid. Every coin mattered. When business slowed, she thought about closing early. She was tired and her feet ached from standing all morning. Still, she decided to stay a little longer. Even one extra sale could make a difference. She had learned that patience was sometimes rewarded in unexpected ways. As the afternoon approached, clouds gathered lightly in the sky. The air felt strange, thick and quiet, as if the city was holding its breath. She packed a few unsold items into a cloth, planning to leave soon. That was when she noticed something unusual. At first, it was just a shape on the side of the road. Someone lying still near the footpath, half hidden by shadows. People walked past without stopping. Some glanced briefly and looked away. Others stepped around the body, annoyed that it blocked their path. She watched for a moment, unsure. It was not rare to see people lying on the streets. Sometimes they were drunk. Sometimes they were unwell. Sometimes they were simply exhausted. Helping often meant trouble. She knew that better than anyone. Her heart told her to look again. The person was not moving at all. No angry shouts, no signs of sleep, just stillness. Something about it felt wrong. She hesitated. Fear crept into her mind. What if people blamed her? What if the person was already dead? What if she lost her entire day's earnings, dealing with police or hospitals? She had seen such things happen to others. She turned her face away, pretending not to notice. She served another customer with shaky hands. But her thoughts stayed with the figure on the ground. A quiet voice inside her would not let her rest. She remembered her own past, times when she had been sick and alone, when no one stopped to help her. times when she had wished for even a single kind stranger. Those memories pressed heavily on her chest. Slowly, she wiped her hands and stepped away from her cart. Each step toward the roadside felt heavier than the last. She told herself she would just look, nothing more. As she got closer, she saw the stranger clearly. The clothes were clean, but dusty. The face looked pale, lips slightly dry. There was no smell of alcohol. The chest moved faintly, rising and falling in weak breaths. Her fear grew, but so did her concern. This was not someone pretending. This was someone who needed help. She looked around, hoping someone else would take responsibility. Dozens of people passed by, busy with their own lives. Not a single one stopped. She felt a deep sadness settle in her heart. The city was full of people, yet loneliness lived everywhere. She knelt carefully, keeping a small distance. She spoke softly, asking if the stranger could hear her. There was no response. She waved her hand near the face. Nothing. Her mind raced. She had no phone. No authority to call. Only her own will. She stood up and looked back at her cart. Leaving it unattended was risky. Someone could steal from it. She could lose everything she had earned that day. For a moment, she thought about walking away. No one would blame her. No one would even remember, but her feet refused to move. Her heart would not allow it. She took a deep breath and made a decision that would change her life. Oh, she did not know it yet. She would not leave this stranger alone. She returned to her cart, quickly covering it with a cloth. She took her small bottle of water and the little money she had earned so far. Each coin felt heavier now, not as money, but as a choice. As she walked back toward the unconscious stranger, her hands trembled slightly. She did not know what would happen next. She only knew that turning away was no longer possible. The noise of the city continued around her, unaware that an ordinary woman was about to step into an extraordinary moment. One small act, one simple decision, was about to set a story in motion that no one could have imagined, and it all began on that dusty street. With a poor street vendor who chose humanity over fear, she stood beside the unconscious stranger, her heart beating fast. The noise of the street felt distant now, as if the world had narrowed down to this one moment. She slowly opened the water bottle and sprinkled a few drops on his dry lips. She did not pour too much. Water was precious, and she knew sudden carelessness could cause harm. She spoke again. Softly this time, almost like a whisper meant for herself. She told him he was not alone. She told him to wake up. There was still no response, but his breathing remained weak and uneven. That was enough to tell her he was alive. People continued to pass by. Some glanced briefly. Some shook their heads. A few murmured comments under their breath, warning her not to get involved. She heard words like trouble, waste of time, and mind your own business. Their voices made her hands shake, but she stayed where she was. She looked around searching for help. A shopkeeper nearby avoided her eyes. A group of young men laughed as they walked past, more interested in their phones than the man lying on the ground. She felt anger rise inside her, but it quickly turned into sadness. Everyone was busy saving themselves. She knew she could not lift the man alone. He looked heavier than he appeared, and she was already weak from standing all day. Still, she tried. She slipped her arms under his shoulders and pulled gently, trying to move him away from the open road. Her strength failed her and she had to stop, breathing hard. A sharp pain shot through her back, but she ignored it. Pain was familiar to her. Giving up was not. She waved her hand at a passing rickshaw, but it did not stop. Another slowed down, then moved away when the driver realized there was no money waiting for him. Each rejection felt like a quiet slap, but she kept trying. Finally, an older man pushing a cart slowed down. He watched her struggle for a moment, then walked closer. His face showed hesitation, but also concern. She asked him for help, her voice shaking. He sighed, looked around, and then nodded. Together, they managed to pull the stranger closer to the footpath. It was not much, but at least he was no longer in danger of being hit by vehicles. The older man advised her to leave and not invite trouble. He said he had his own problems. After saying that, he walked away without looking back. She sat beside the stranger, wiping sweat from her forehead. Her water bottle was almost empty now. Her money rested in her palm, counted and recounted. It was not enough for a hospital, but it might be enough to get some basic help. She made another decision. One more sacrifice. She stood up and hurried toward a small medical shop down the street. The shop owner looked annoyed when she asked for help, but after seeing her worried face, he softened slightly. She explained quickly, pointing back toward the road. The shop owner sold her a small bottle of glucose water and a packet of basic medicine. She paid with almost all the money she had earned that day. The coins felt cold as they left her hand. For a moment, fear filled her chest. What if she sold nothing more today? What if she went home hungry? She pushed those thoughts aside and rushed back. She helped the stranger drink a little glucose water, carefully tilting his head. Some of it spilled, but some went in. His lips moved slightly. It was the first sign of response, and it filled her with hope. She stayed close, shielding him from the sun with her dupatta. Her arms ached, her legs trembled, but she did not move. Time passed slowly. Minutes felt like hours. A small crowd had formed now. People stood at a distance, watching. Some whispered theories. Some blamed the man for his condition. Others blamed her for getting involved. No one stepped forward to help. She felt exposed, like she was standing alone under a harsh light. Still, she kept her focus on the stranger's face, watching every breath. At one point, she noticed his fingers twitch. Then his eyes fluttered slightly, though they did not open fully. She leaned closer, speaking gently. She told him to stay awake. She told him help was coming, even though she was not sure if it was true. Her voice cracked, but she did not cry. Crying would weaken her resolve soon. Someone from the crowd suggested calling emergency services. Another argued it was pointless. A third said it would bring police trouble. The crowd argued among themselves, while she listened silently. Finally, a younger woman stepped forward. She had been watching quietly. She took out her phone and made a call. The sound of that call felt like relief pouring into her chest. They waited together while waiting. The poor street vendor thought about how strange life was. A few hours ago, she had been worried about selling food. Now, she was guarding a life she did not know. She wondered who the stranger was, where he came from. Whether anyone was waiting for him somewhere, the thought made her chest tighten. What if no one was waiting? What if this street was the last place he would ever see? She shook her head, refusing to accept such thoughts. When the ambulance finally arrived, its sound cut through the air like a sharp blade. People stepped back quickly. 2 medical workers jumped out, asking questions. Everyone pointed at her. She explained everything as best as she could. Her words rushed and uneven. The workers checked the man quickly and lifted him onto a stretcher. As they worked, one of them looked at her and nodded, saying she had done the right thing. Those simple words made her eyes sting. They asked if she was family. She shook her head. They asked if she wanted to come along. She hesitated. Her cart, her stall, her survival. She looked back at the place where her cart stood, covered with cloth, alone among strangers. She then looked at the man being lifted into the ambulance. She made another choice. She climbed into the ambulance, her heart racing again. As the doors closed, she had no idea where this road would take her. She only knew that she could not walk away now. The vehicle moved, siren fading into the distance. The city returned to its usual noise behind them, as if nothing had happened. But for her, everything had already begun to change. She sat quietly, holding the edge of the stretcher, watching the stranger's face as the ambulance sped forward. Fear, hope, and uncertainty mixed inside her. She did not know his name. She did not know his story. All she knew was that she had chosen compassion over comfort. And there was no turning back. The ambulance stopped with a sudden jolt, and the doors opened to a bright white building. The smell of medicine filled the air. People moved quickly, speaking in short sentences. The stretcher rolled forward, and she followed, trying not to get in the way. Her sandals felt out of place on the clean floor, and for a moment she wished she could disappear. The medical workers asked her to wait outside. She nodded and sat on a hard bench near the wall. Her hands were still shaking. She pressed them together to calm herself, but her heart would not slow down. Every few seconds she looked toward the doors that had closed behind the stretcher. Time stretched again. She had no watch, but she could feel each minute passing. She thought about her cart standing alone on the street. She imagined someone stealing from it, or the city workers pushing it away. The thought hurt, but she pushed it aside. Right now, a life mattered more than a cart. A nurse came out and asked her questions. How long had the man been unconscious? Had he eaten anything? Did he have any injuries? She answered as best as she could, feeling small under the bright lights. When the nurse asked for the patient's details, she lowered her eyes and said she did not know him. The nurse studied her face for a moment, then nodded and walked away. She sat alone again. Around her, other people waited too. Some cried softly. Some argued on phones. Some stared at the floor like her. She realized pain brought strangers together in quiet ways. After some time, a doctor came out. He spoke calmly and said the man was stable for now. He had collapsed due to exhaustion and an untreated medical condition. If help had come later, the outcome could have been very different. She felt her chest loosen slightly. Stable. The word felt like a gift. The doctor asked again if she was family. She shook her head. He asked why she helped. The question surprised her. She did not know how to answer it properly. She said only that he needed help. The doctor gave a small smile and said that was enough. She stayed on the bench for a long time after that. Hunger crept into her body, slow and sharp. She had not eaten since early morning. Her stomach tightened, but she ignored it. She had known this might happen. As evening approached, the hallway lights softened. Visitors came and went. No one came asking for the stranger. No phone rang for him. The silence around his name made her uneasy. She wondered if he had a family, a home, a life somewhere far from this place. She wondered if anyone would notice he was missing. A hospital worker approached and asked if she could pay a small registration fee since she had brought the patient. The amount was not large, but to her it felt heavy. She opened her small cloth purse and counted the few coins left. They were not enough. Shame burned her face. She explained quietly that she had already spent what she had. The worker looked tired, not angry. He waved his hand and told her not to worry about it. Someone else would handle it. She thanked him more times than necessary. As night settled in, she made another choice. She could not stay any longer. There was nothing more she could do, and she needed to return home before it got too late. She stood up slowly, her body stiff and sore. Before leaving, she asked if she could see the man once more. The nurse allowed her a brief look. She stepped into the room quietly. The stranger lay on the bed, connected to machines that beeped softly. His face looked calmer now, color slowly returning. For the first time, she saw him clearly. He looked ordinary, not rich, not poor, just human. She felt a strange sense of responsibility lift from her chest. He was safe now. She whispered a short prayer for him, then turned away. No one stopped her as she left the hospital. The night air felt cool against her skin. The city had changed its rhythm. Fewer cars, softer sounds. She walked slowly, her legs heavy, her mind full. When she reached the spot where her cart had been, her heart skipped. It was still there, covered, untouched. Relief washed over her so strongly that her knees weakened. She uncovered the cart and checked inside. Nothing was missing. Someone nearby said they had watched it for a while. She thanked them with a tired smile. There was no point in reopening the stall. The day was gone. She pushed the cart home under the dim streetlights. Each step felt longer than usual. When she reached her room, she sat on the floor and leaned against the wall. The silence felt loud after the noise of the city. Her body ached, and her stomach burned with hunger. She drank water and lay down without eating. Sleep came slowly. Images of the day played in her mind. The man's pale face, the ambulance lights, the hospital hallway. She wondered if she would ever know what happened to him. The next morning, she returned to her routine. She woke early, prepared her cart, and went back to the same corner. Life did not pause for good deeds. Bills still waited. Hunger still existed. Some customers noticed her tired eyes and asked if she was well. She nodded and smiled. She did not tell the story. She did not want praise. She only wanted the day to pass peacefully around midday. Two men in neat clothes appeared at the corner. They looked out of place among the street vendors. One of them asked if she was the woman who had helped an unconscious man the day before. Her heart jumped. She hesitated, fear returning suddenly. She nodded slowly. They exchanged a look and said they wanted to speak with her. They did not explain why. People around her began to watch. She felt exposed again. She asked if there was a problem. One of them shook his head and said no. He said the man from the hospital wanted to thank her. She felt confused. Thank her? Why? She told them she had work to do. She could not leave her cart. One of the men said they understood and asked when she would be free. His tone was polite. Careful, she told them she finished late. They nodded and said they would return. As they walked away, her hands trembled. Questions flooded her mind. Who was the stranger? Why would he send people looking for her? Had she done something wrong? The rest of the day passed in a blur. She served customers without hearing their words. Her thoughts raced ahead of her. When evening came, she packed her cart quickly and pushed it home. Glancing behind her more than once, that night sleep refused to come. Her simple act had followed her home, and she did not know what it wanted from her. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, unaware that the man she had saved was waking up in a hospital bed, asking the same question over and over again. Who was the woman who did not walk away? The next morning began quietly. She prepared her cart as usual, tying the cloth tightly and checking her small supplies. Her hands moved from habit, but her mind was elsewhere. The memory of the two men in neat clothes lingered like a shadow. She kept telling herself it meant nothing. People thanked each other all the time, she thought. There was no reason to worry. She reached her corner and set up. The street felt the same, but she did not. Every passing stranger seemed louder, every glance heavier. She focused on her work, greeting customers with the same calm smile she always wore. By late morning, she saw them again. The two men approached slowly, careful not to draw attention. This time, they did not stop at a distance. They stood near her cart and waited until she finished serving a customer. Their clothes were clean and simple, but their posture showed confidence. Not pride, just certainty. One of them spoke gently. He said they had come as promised. The man from the hospital was awake now. He had asked them to find her again. Her heart thudded in her chest. She asked why he wanted to see her. The man replied that gratitude was not something to delay. He said the stranger wished to thank her properly. She shook her head slowly. She said there was no need. What she did was small. Anyone would have done the same. The men exchanged a quiet look. One of them said softly that not everyone would have. She felt uncomfortable. Attention made her uneasy. She asked if she could continue working. They nodded and stepped aside, waiting patiently. Their calmness unsettled her more than force ever could. After a while, she agreed to go with them, but only after she closed her cart. She did not want to leave it unattended again. The men respected her request. She packed her items, counted her money, and covered the cart carefully. Each movement felt heavy, like she was stepping away from something familiar into something unknown. They walked to a simple car parked a short distance away. It was clean, not flashy. She hesitated before getting in. One of the men opened the door and waited without pressure. As the car moved, the city passed by outside the window. Streets changed from crowded lanes to wider roads. Small shops gave way to taller buildings. She sat quietly, hands folded in her lap. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, she asked how the man was doing. One of them said he was recovering well. He explained that the man had been pushing himself too hard for months, ignoring his health. The collapse had been a warning he could no longer ignore. She nodded, absorbing the words. It felt strange hearing about the life of someone she had only seen unconscious. They stopped in front of the hospital again. This time, she entered not as a worried bystander, but as a guest. Still, she felt small among the clean walls and quiet halls. They led her to a private room. When she stepped inside, the man was sitting up in bed. He looked different now, healthier, stronger. His eyes met hers. Something softened in his expression. He tried to stand, but she raised her hand quickly, asking him not to. She told him to rest. He smiled faintly and thanked her. His voice was calm, but emotion sat just beneath it. He said he had been told everything. How she stayed. How she spent her money. How she refused to leave. She felt embarrassed and looked down. She said she only did what felt right. He said that was exactly why he wanted to see her. There was a pause. The room felt quiet, heavy with unspoken thoughts. He asked her about her life, where she lived, how she worked, what her days were like. She answered honestly, without drama. She spoke of long hours, uncertain income, and simple hopes. She did not complain. She did not exaggerate. He listened carefully, asking gentle questions. Not once did he look distracted. His attention felt sincere, not curious in a careless way. Then he shared a little about himself. He said he had spent years chasing success, always moving, always pushing. He spoke of meetings, travel, and pressure. He admitted he had forgotten how fragile the body could be. He paused and said that when he woke up in the hospital and learned he had been ignored by so many. One fact stayed with him. A poor street vendor had stopped. That fact disturbed him more than the illness. She shifted uncomfortably. She said people were busy. Life was hard. He nodded. He said that was true. But kindness was still a choice. He then offered her money. The words hit her like a sudden wind. She looked up sharply and shook her head at once. She said she could not accept it. She had not helped for money. He said he knew that. He said that was why the offer mattered. She stood up, unsure of what to do. She said she needed to leave her cart. Her work, he asked her to sit again. He promised he would not force anything on her. He only wanted to help in a way that respected her dignity. She hesitated, then sat slowly. He asked what she wanted most. Not what she needed today, but what she wished for in life. The question caught her off guard. No one had asked her that before. She thought for a long moment. Then she said she wanted stability. She wanted to wake up without fear of hunger. She wanted a small, honest way to earn without standing in the heat all day. He nodded thoughtfully. He said he could help her start something small, a proper stall, a safe place. No pressure, no charity signs. Just support. She listened silently. Her heart raced. Hope tried to rise, but fear held it back. She had learned not to trust sudden changes. She asked what he wanted in return. He smiled and said nothing. He said he already received more than he could measure. She did not answer right away. She asked for time to think. He respected that. Before she left, he thanked her again. Not loudly, not publicly. Just as one human to another, she walked out of the hospital feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. The city greeted her with noise and dust, but her thoughts stayed quiet. She returned to her cart and continued her day. Customers came and went. The sun moved across the sky, but something inside her had shifted. That night, she sat alone in her room thinking about choices. About fear, about trust. She did not know what she would decide. She only knew that the stranger she saved was no longer a stranger. And the simple act she thought would end on a dusty street had opened a door she never expected to see. She did not sleep much that night. The room felt smaller than usual, as if the walls had moved closer. She lay on her thin mattress, listening to the distant sounds of the city. Every option she had ever known felt clear and simple. Wake up, work, eat if possible, sleep, repeat. Now something new sat in her life. Quiet but heavy. In the morning, she woke before dawn and washed her face. The water was cold, but it helped steady her thoughts. She prepared her cart and pushed it to the corner like always. The street welcomed her with the same noise, the same dust, the same rush. She felt comfort in that. No matter what happened next, this place had carried her through many hard years. Customers came and went. Some smiled. Some complained. Some paid late. Everything felt normal. Yet she was aware of each moment in a deeper way. She noticed how tired people looked. How hurried. How rarely anyone met another's eyes. Around midday, she saw the familiar car stop at a distance. The two men waited without approaching. They did not wave or signal. They simply waited. She finished serving a customer and wiped her hands. Her heart beat faster, but her mind felt calm. She covered her cart and walked toward them. She told them she had thought carefully. She said she was grateful, but she needed to be sure that whatever happened next would not take away her independence. She did not want to feel owned by kindness. One of the men smiled and said that was exactly what the man hoped she would say. They drove to a small office building, not large or grand. Inside, the air was quiet. The man she had saved waited in a simple room, standing by the window. He looked stronger now, more present. He greeted her with respect, not excitement. He listened as she spoke. Really listened. She told him she did not want free money. She wanted a chance to stand on her own feet without fear. He nodded. He said help that takes away dignity is not help at all. They spoke for a long time, not about wealth or power, but about work, about trust, about patience. He offered to help her set up a small, permanent stall near a busy area with proper shelter and basic support. Nothing more. Nothing hidden, she agreed, slowly, carefully. The change did not happen overnight. Weeks passed. Papers were signed. Permissions were arranged. She continued working from her old cart while things moved quietly in the background. No announcements were made. No one filmed her story. She preferred it that way. One early morning, she stood in front of a small stall with a solid roof and clean counter. Her hands trembled as she touched it. It was not fancy, but it was safe. It was hers. She thanked him once more. He told her that thanks were unnecessary. He said she had already paid the price with courage. Life began to change. But gently, she no longer worried about sudden rain ruining her goods. She no longer feared losing her cart. Her income became steadier. She ate better, slept better. Her face slowly lost the constant tension it once carried. Yet she did not change who she was. She still helped those who came hungry. She still listened to stories. She still gave extra food when she could. People noticed. Word spread. Customers returned, not just for the food, but for the warmth. One afternoon, she saw a man lying near the road again. This time, others stopped before she could move. Someone called for help. Someone offered water. She stood back and watched, a quiet smile on her face. Kindness had begun to travel. Months later, the man she had saved returned one last time, not as someone who needed help, but as a friend. He sat at her stall and ate quietly among ordinary people. No one recognized him. That seemed to please him. He told her he had changed too. He rested more, listened more. He said her small act had followed him into every decision he now made. When he left, there were no promises, no speeches, just a handshake and mutual respect. As years passed, her stall became a steady part of the street. New vendors came and went, but she remained. She trained a young girl from the neighborhood, giving her work and guidance. People often asked how she managed to rise without borrowing or begging. She never told the full story. She only said that doing the right thing never truly goes unpaid. Sometimes, late in the evening, she sat alone after closing, watching the street calm down. She thought about that day. The dusty road. The still body. The fear. She realized something important. She had not been rewarded for saving the man. She had been rewarded for not walking away. And that choice, once made, had quietly changed everything. Life did not stop after the change. In some ways, it became more demanding. A stable stall meant longer hours, more responsibility, and higher expectations. People trusted her now, and she did not want to break that trust. She arrived earlier each day, cleaned the counter herself, and made sure everything was fresh. Pride had quietly entered her life, not loud or showy, but steady. Some customers came just to talk. They shared stories of loss, hope, and small victories. She listened the same way she always had, without hurry. The stall became more than a place to eat. It became a pause in people's busy lives. Not everyone was kind. A few nearby vendors grew jealous. They whispered that she must have connections. Some said she had been lucky. Others tried to copy her prices or complained to authorities. When inspectors came, her papers were in order. She treated everyone with respect, even those who wished her harm. Slowly, the noise faded. She learned that growth often brings resistance. One afternoon, a heavy rain poured down without warning. Water rushed through the street, flooding the lower areas. Vendors scrambled to protect their goods. She helped an older man nearby move his things to higher ground. They worked together until the rain slowed. As she wiped her wet hands, she remembered how exposed she once felt, standing alone beside an unconscious stranger. The memory no longer hurt. It felt distant, like a lesson carefully stored. That evening, as she was closing the stall, a woman approached with a young boy. The boy looked weak and tired. The woman explained that her child had not eaten all day. Without thinking, she prepared food and handed it to them. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She refused payment later that night. She thought about how easily kindness flowed now. It had always been inside her. Stability had only given it room to breathe. Months turned into years. Her small stall became a reference point on the street. People gave directions using it. New vendors asked her for advice. She never spoke as if she knew everything. She only shared what life had taught her. One day she was invited to speak at a local community gathering. She hesitated. Standing in front of people was not natural for her. But she agreed. She spoke simply. She talked about work, patience, and looking twice when someone needs help. She did not mention wealth or miracles. She spoke about choice. The room stayed quiet as she spoke. When she finished, there was no loud applause. Just thoughtful faces. That was enough. After the gathering, a young man approached her. He said he had walked past someone in need many times and always looked away. He said her words made him think differently. She thanked him and told him, change starts small. That night, she walked home slowly, feeling the weight of her words. She never saw the man she had saved again. Years passed without contact. She heard through others that he had stepped back from constant work and focused more on people than numbers. She smiled when she heard that. She did not need updates. One quiet evening, as she closed the stall, she noticed an old man sitting alone nearby. He looked tired. She offered him food. He accepted with a nod. As he ate, he said something that stayed with her. He said the world does not change through big promises. It changes when ordinary people refuse to look away. She watched him walk off into the crowd and felt a calm settle inside her. Later that night, sitting in her room, she reflected on the path her life had taken. There was no sudden wealth. No dramatic rise. Just steady ground beneath her feet. She realized she did not need more. The memory of that dusty street remained clear. Not as a moment of fear, but as proof of who she was when tested. She had chosen compassion. No one was watching, and that choice continued to echo quietly. In ways she would never fully see, the city slept outside her window. Unaware of the many small acts happening within it every day, somewhere, another person would face the same decision she once faced, and because of one poor street vendor who refused to walk away, the answer might come a little easier. That was the true outcome. Not wealth, not recognition, but a life lived without regret.